Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not to Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Legends of Tomorrow. A great episode. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. First and foremost, we get that intro. I like that. It's like, it was like, 3 days after Charlie left, and her sister went there and killed everybody. I was like, dude, and things are super bloody. I was like, once again, I feel like this is like the darkest season so far. Like, I feel like obviously it's so interesting because like the show has always had like a more comedic tone going forward. It has its serious tone and its comedic tone, but like this season, like it's really shown its much darker side, because obviously there's the episode before the one with about the serial killer and everything that I was like, oh, that felt like a supernatural episode. We'll get to that soon enough. But the fact of the matter is she's looking for Charlie, and so it turns out that the lady that is mentoring Astra is one as well. She's the other sister. I was like, I'm not surprised. I had an inkling because she seemed too important. I was like, you have to be one of the Sisters of Fate too. Just the fact is that I know Astra must know that too, because like the fact is that she's the one that Astra went to about, you know, the coins and everything. So it seems like she kind of stayed in a similar line of work. Who knows what the other sibling has been up to the entire. We know Charlie's basically been on a run the entire time. But obviously, like, you know, there's that moment at the beginning, and it's cute, you know, Zari waking up in Nate's bed, this awkward thing. It's like subconsciously, she would do it so often in the previous timeline. So now I think subconsciously, now that her memories are coming back, her body's kind of acting on that. And so obviously everyone's like, whoa, and she's like, it's not like that, you know, because it's like, the fact is, even Charlie being like, oh, the fact is, it must not have been that good if you're like walking straight or something. I'm like, Jesus, Charlie. And even Bayrod's like, dude, I know that's my sister and everything, but it's like, hey, this is judgment free zone, it's all good. And they're like, no, we didn't do anything. And you know, it's like no shame needed. And then Rory walking by being like, shame is a good thing because it makes you not hook up with someone and then wake up and have a kid, you know, having a 16-year-old kid. So that's all going down. And obviously Charlie ends up finding out about, you know, her sister and everything, and Constantine being the one about like, no, I get it, but the fact is your sister fired a warning shot, we need to go take care of this, you know, find that other piece. But obviously Charlie want nothing to do with that right now with her sister on a warpath. Sarah was like, we need a clear-cut plan, especially if we're going up against her siblings, because she said, you know, literally they're gods, you know, so it's like, you know, we need a plan. But Constantine is so adamant about the whole Astra thing that he goes off his own, and now they have to help with that. And then there's the whole situation with Mick and Ava, because Ava's helping him out and everything. Because obviously, like, she ripped off the head to the bear that he brought, and he was like, you know what I'm just gonna go back in time and beat myself, or tell myself not to be with Allie. And then you have Ava being like, you can't like there's many different reasons why you shouldn't basically wipe your daughter out of existence. It's funny because it's literally the opposite of Martin's situation with him having a daughter he didn't know about too, just because of time. It was because of Flashpoint, but Mick's situation is a little different. But I just thought that was so interesting. And the fact is, Ava suggesting like, oh, why don't we kind of do what, you know, Rip did to me? You know, kind of give, you know, I didn't have the perfect life or whatever, but he gave me these little events and made it seem like I actually had like a childhood and stuff. And I love Mick being like, but she's not a clone. And then Ava's like, ooh, she's like, yes, she's not a. Once again, Ava did not even saying the word because she doesn't like the C word. But it's actually super adorable, like the adventure they go on and everything. And like she's there, like moments they broke into Allie's place and fixed up a carriage and stuff, like a not carriage, but God, what's the word I'm thinking of? A crib. Jeez, I couldn't find the word. And I love, it's just kind of like, oh, why are you here? It's like, Ava's like, oh, I'm his CO and stuff like that. Got him time, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, oh, it's a happy moment. Let's document it. And then Allie's like, wait, did you break into my place? And then we periodically see them throughout his daughter's life. I love at one point she's reading a book called He's reading a book to her called Heat Waves. On one Halloween, she's dressed up like Captain Cold, you know, Snarl, which I'm like, oh, that's super adorable. You got your daughter dressed up like your partner for Halloween. That's super cool. That's super adorable. But nevertheless, So just these little milestones here and there, her losing a tooth, him putting money underneath and stuff like that. And it's like, yeah, we collected all these memories. It's awesome. Like she's going to prom or whatever, and he's got his blaster to the back of her date. And it's like, no, it's okay. We can get you some new pants. It was so adorable. And it's like, oh, we have this like book of memories. Yay. And he hands it to her present day, and she doesn't want it because it's a reminder of all the times he bailed in her life. Like, yeah, you were there in her life, but the fact of the matter is you come into her life and just disappear again. You can make the argument that's potentially worse. At least if you were going, like, it's easy just to hate and resent you. But the fact is you came into my life and would constantly leave. It makes me have a love-hate relationship with you. He's like, I was in prison the entire time. And she's like, yeah, but you got out of prison in 2015 when you basically first start popping up in the Flash / kicking out with the Legends. So... Well, no, he wasn't with the Legends yet, but that was around the time, obviously, he started popping up in the Flash. So it's like, you got out of prison when you start popping up in the Flash. So it's not what she said, but you can read in between the lines of that. And it's just like, and obviously, Ava's like, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have given you that advice. You know what? She's like, what you need to do is just talk to her, like, apologize for, that's all she wants. Like, you can't, like, fix what's already there. Like, it is what it is, but it's like, all you can do is talk to her and explain things to her. I mean, to be fair, you didn't know about her until now, and you've been out there, being a superhero. Well, villain first, but then a superhero, anti-hero. You get to the point. You've been time traveling and doing good. Except more often than not, you're sitting on your ass just like either writing. You're a very successful. There's a lot to be, proud of about when it comes to Mick, So I thought that was kind of an interesting storyline. Obviously, at the same time, all this stuff is going on. There's the whole thing with Zari and Behrad, because it's like, oh, she's flipping out because she's remembering all this stuff. And, she's thinking she's going a little crazy, and she's talking to Behrad, and he's playing, and they pick up, I'm assuming it looked like it's probably Mortal Kombat 11, which I guess that's under the Warner Brother banner. Because I know, like, obviously, like, that happens, like, especially with NetherRealm, like, when it comes to, like, the Injustice games, as well as, I think DC and Mortal Kombat have always had that relationship anyway, but I think it's because Mortal Kombat's under the Warner Brothers banner. But nevertheless, she plays the game and she beats him. And I was like, holy crap. I was like, he's like, whoa. And she's like, I've never played video games before. What's going on with me? And then she touches the totem and activates it too. And it's like, whoa, how did you do that? So then basically Nate, Behrad, and Zari all sit down about the whole thing. And of like, okay, so here's this point in time where you were actually you were with us. You were the Legends. But they're under the impression like, oh my, we must have been like a duo when it came to the totem. We must have both used it at the same time. And then like Nate and Behrad looked at each other like, we must have been like the Wonder Twins, and they high-five. I was like, oh, that's cool. Because interestingly enough, there was a Wonder Twins reference during what was it? Crisis on Infinite Earths Part 5, the ending. Like the little monkey that the little, what was it? Its name is Gleek or something like that. The cage, it was like a monkey or something. That's the Wonder Twins like pal, like at least from like the cartoons. Once again, I'm not well versed in the comic books, but like from the old school like Super Friends cartoon and stuff like that. I remember that monkey being a friend of like the Wonder Twins and stuff like that. So it's interesting how that all does come together like that. But nevertheless, Behrad is going to try and help Zarya about it because Zarya kind of feels a little bad at first because it's like there was another version of me out there that was like cooler and who was on top of that was a hero, because now like she kind of felt accomplished with what she had done, but now this kind of makes her go like, oh, like in a different life I was a completely different person, and like now Nate and Behrad probably liked her more than me, and it's like, oh, you probably wish that person was your sister, but Behrad's still kind of happy about the sister he has anyway. So it's like, oh, you need to kind of take this as like a, self-discovery type of situation. And he's like, he's like, whoa, your face. She's like, what? It's like that face you make when you hate that I'm right. And she's like, no. And he's like, yeah. It's like, let's go. It's like, it's going to involve like using, some drugs and stuff like that. So I like drug use to kind of send her on her way with the whole situation. But at the same time, Charlie and Sarah are tracking down Constantine, present day. I didn't think much of it when it's like, oh, he's in Vancouver, because they're tracking down the next piece to the loom. And I love the fact is they come across a sign and it's like, wait. And Sarah's like, oh my God, what? Supernatural films here? I paused it. I literally, that whole Supernatural bit, I geeked out. I was like, what? I was like, shut up. You're making these references. It's like, shut up. Because if you're unaware, because I don't know if at least a good chunk of the CW's TV shows are filmed in Vancouver because I think it's cheaper. I definitely know all the DC shows are filmed in Vancouver as well. So it's just, but the fact is they picked Supernatural and it's like, oh, and it's like, Charlie's like, super what? She's like, Sarah's like, you know what Supernatural is? Oh my God, it's like, about these two hot brothers fighting monsters and demons and stuff like that. She's like, Dean is literally my hall pass. I was like, this is happening? Oh my God, this is happening. I mean, to be fair, this isn't the first time, even just this season, that they've been referential to other shows on the CW, but it was just like, this is next level, and I loved it. Like I said, I was just geeking out the entire time. I love that this is all going down. I did like the fact is that we did learn a little bit more about how they worked as fates, that basically I'm not that well versed in the Sisters of Fate. I only know about them because of the Hercules cartoon, well, the movie and the cartoon, but more so the movie, the animated movie from Disney. But the fact is that each sister does a different thing. Like, for example, Charlie, she's the one that actually makes the strings of fate. The sister that is with Astra, she is the one that kind of determines how long someone's life is, and the other sister, the one that's kind of genocidal, is the one who kills people. She's the one that snips the fate, so it's like killing people is kind of in her thing. Like, she actually kind of enjoys it a lot, so that's why I think Charlie probably scared of her more so than anyone, considering the fact that she did literally kill a whole bunch of people at a concert, including your bandmates, so that's gotta suck. But obviously this is also, on Constantine, because it's like, we wouldn't even be in this situation if you had, the only reason why they were able to follow you is because, this is kind of all on John. Because of him, they were able to kind of track down Charlie and everything, so. But what's interesting, though, is the confrontation between Charlie and her sister. And it's interesting because they have a psychic connection where she can talk to her in her mind and everything, where it's like, the fact of the matter is you betrayed us taking the fate, because it's like the loom. It's like, for Charlie, she wanted she is kind of like punk rock. It's kind of like her embodiment of kind of, it's a, raging against the system, kind of being kind of forging your own path and not kind of going to kind of to a certain extent, Charlie loves chaos, because chaos means you're able to kind of do whatever you want to, and that's kind of what punk rock represents. It represents freedom. And so she got tired of humanity being tied. I think for her it's also who are we to be the ones to decide people's fate? She wanted humanity to have their fate. They were able to do such great things, but her sister also reminds her humanity also did such terrible things with that freedom you gave them. But it's like, hey, you apologize and we'll take you back, little sister. We'll find a way to forgive you. And in that moment, Charlie turns into a little girl, because I think for her it's like, she goes back to feeling small in front of her siblings, it's like, and she was almost seduced back into it, because it's like, for her, it's like, I wanted them. She thought she could escape from it, but it's like, no, and I like what Sarah was saying, that basically just, your family doesn't decide who you are. You can't decide, you can't, change what family you come from, which Sarah can kind of understand to a certain extent. Obviously her real family situation is very different, but let's not forget she was a part of the League of Assassins for a while, so it's like, that's a family she ended up rejecting and not being a part of, so she can, she can attest to that, because she's found herself and found other families as well, because it's like, Charlie, you are a very caring person, you have you're a very courageous person, and you have a very big heart, So kind of showing that you aren't like your siblings. The fact is you did what you did because, shows that you aren't like your siblings. It's also interesting because at least it shows that at least one of her siblings is like her. I'm assuming because of the god power and everything, they can shapeshift and stuff like that. But I also like that they actually did show that, the whole thing about, it's kind of, and it's the reference I made before, it's like, angels and supernatural, if they actually showed you their true form, it would kill you, because it'd be too much for the human mind and body can't process it, and it will kill you. It's literally the same thing with her. Or rather, it seems like her thing in particular is she likes burning people from the inside. So it seems like, I think it might be a combination of two. Either that's the same thing, or it's just, that's thing to do. But I thought that was, I mean, them being gods, I guess it wouldn't be too much of a stretch for them to shapeshift. But I guess I just assumed that was a specific ability tied to Charlie. I mean, because even though Charlie is lost most of her god ability, she's more immortal now. She still has her shapeshifting ability, so that made me think like it was something intrinsic to her, so heavily tied to her. But I even love that they come across the corpses of some of the Supernatural crew. She's like, oh my god, this is crew. She's like, so who's filming season 15 of Supernatural? I'm like, shut up with the Supernatural fans. I can't take it. Like I said, it got me too damn giddy. But what was also interesting, though, is that when her sister attacked Sarah, it's like, oh, Sarah died, but it's like, when it happened, like, Sarah didn't immediately get the same reaction as at the beginning. We saw that dude's eyes, it seemed like they were bleeding from like the power and everything, but Sarah ended up somehow surviving it. And it's like, how is that? I wonder, does it have to stem from the fact is that she's been back from the dead before? So I'm curious, is that kind of some kind of, I mean, because let's not forget who she is too. She's a paragon of destiny. Like, there's definitely something special about Sarah. Like, maybe it's something about the Lazarus pit, maybe something about it makes her a little immune to something like that. Like, I mean, I'm trying to think, she hasn't died since she came back from the Lazarus pit, so it makes me wonder, because like, even, I mean, because obviously you can die again, because obviously I'm blinking. Raza Raish died, and obviously he was connected to the Lazarus pit. So it's like, that's why I'm curious about that. Like, Sarah, it might just stem from her being a paragon or something else. She's always kind of had a special case when it came to the whole death situation, because even like back in season 3, that played a role in the fact, so that's why, like, I'm curious to find out what it is specifically about Sarah that made her immune, because even like Charlie's sister was like, how are you not dead? Like, everyone else dies from that, but what are you? And I was like, oh, that's interesting. I mean, to be fair, it's not just Sarah, it's the entire Legends in particular. I wonder, could that work on her in particular? Like, the whole, like, cutting her string of fate? I would assume so, because, like, she has been brought back. So, maybe, I don't know. I'm curious to see. I don't know. I don't even know where to even begin with what that could possibly be. But nevertheless, at the same time, Zari is talking to OG Zari. I thought that was kind of a nice, like, moment of just kind of like, because now, like, Zari learns, like, wait, mom and dad weren't alive, and neither was Behrad, and it's like, yeah, it's like, so. Because now for her, it's like, oh, you must, like, kind of be disappointed to look at me because you were a hero and everything. But she was like, the fact of the matter is mom and dad and Behrad are alive, and that's all that matters to me. And she's like, also, like, you are fun. You seem like fun too, like, saying it's not a bad thing. Because obviously she became self-conscious because it's like, this version of me was so much better and stuff like that. It's like, wait, you and Nate aren't together? It's like, no, it's weird for me and Nate to be together. He's like he's my brother's best friend. And it's like, wait, they're best friends? It's like, yeah, they had like this stupid handshake and everything. So it's like, I think for Zarya it's probably nice to know, like, oh, like my bro and the guy that I'm in love with, like, are also, like, good, so it's, and I think it probably makes her even happier to know that. And it's like, but I think it was what Zari needed here. We're like, oh, I'm not like a complete, like, it's like, oh, like, I'm okay, that I thought it was kind of nice. It's obviously a very, like, existential moment of meeting a different version of yourself that is you, who you were in a different timeline. Like, you were that person because of the rough situation. You were fortunate enough to be in this position because life worked out in a good way where you could, become the person you are. So it's just such an interesting thing. And I think despite all that, like, that version of Zari is still there inside of her. It's also interesting too to note that, like, when things got erased, she wasn't completely erased. She's been inside a totem the entire time, that fraction of Zari. Because I guess technically it is like her dying, so technically, she kind of died to a certain extent, but the totem held a fraction of who she was still there, So I like that whole thing of, like, oh yeah, like, inside a totem and stuff like that, does, like, carbs count? And others are always like, no, it don't, and they both, like, are eating donuts. So I thought that was kind of a neat moment. But at the same time, Charlie's sister finds a way on the ship and everything. And she's like, oh, you two have the same blood. It's like, yeah, that's my sister. He's like, okay, if you don't want me to kill her, you'll let me get the other ring. And Beerad steps aside, but then he grabs a weapon and attacks her because it's like, oh, we got to stop her, told him or not, he's still a legend and he's doing a heroic thing. And she's like, you can't escape fate because he's supposed to be dead. And that's what, like I was bringing up before, it's like, well, if out of anyone, Sarah should have been dead already too. So it's like, I mean, to be fair, when you actually look at Sarah, once again, think about it, like, Sarah's kind of escaped death multiple times. It's like, well, everything with the Gambit, you thought she died. You thought only in you she died. And it's like, she constantly, I mean, obviously until she actually did die. And then she got resurrected by the Lazarus. But so it's just, I mean, and then technically, there was a whole paradox situation at the end of season 2. So it's always been a thing, interestingly enough. But Sarah and her fight, and because she is a god and everything, and probably having those 2 rings probably doesn't help, but it probably just being a god in itself, the sword that she got from Damien that was Genghis Khan's sword, that could kill Encores, it didn't work on her. But I liked her plan was to basically take them into, God, what is it called again? Like, basically the time stream. I forgot what it's actually called. And because of that, I like that move where it's like, she like grabs hold of Charlie's hand, kind of swings Charlie a little bit, and Charlie's like, fate's kind of, funny or fickle like that, and then chops off her sister's arm and she falls into it. And I guess even being a powerful god, like, still, like, time can, that's pure time and stuff like that you're being wrapped into. So it's like she's either lost to the outskirts of just time itself. I mean, to be fair, time was used to seal away a demon, so I'm sure it kind of applied to a god as well. But they have the rings and everything, and sadly, Zari returns just to find her brother dead, and and it's just, it's heartbreaking. It's like, Jesus, dude, that sucks. Like, and obviously Zari gets pissed at Constantine because it's like, this is literally on you. And it 100% is. His desperation to save Astra, to make up to this promise he made to her mom, more so than anything, it's that complicated thing that circles back around. Like, is this just about Astra, or is this about you correcting the biggest mistake of your life? One of the things, as I've been using this word a lot lately, like the cornerstone of your biggest mistakes, this is one of your biggest regrets. Like, you think by fixing this that maybe you can be saved or forgiven in some shape or form, and you're so desperate for that you put your entire team in danger. You always treat yourself as kind of an outsider, but you are a part of this team and you put them all in danger. And because of that, Beerad is dead. And Zari's like, with that, I'll be able to bring Beerad back, right? So I'm going to stick to you every second until I get my brother back, So even more guilt on Constantine's shoulders, and he kind of constantly wears it. He kind of makes it seem like he doesn't, but he does, because, it's like, this happened to Beerad because of me, So, like I said, a very, like, sad note to end things off of. It's like, hell, Ray just left the Legends, and now Beerad's dead. It's like, Jesus, really? And it's like, and the sad thing too is, like, the moment Zari started remembering who she was as the other Zari who had lost her brother, now this Zari has to lose her brother, but she's like, she's determined to get her back, especially because, like, Zari saved the world and changed the world so that her mom and dad and brother would be back, So it's like, and I think this is going to be our moment to see this Zari step up and become a hero, So it's definitely going to be interesting to see how this ultimately all ends up playing out going forward into the next episode. But really, that's all I want to talk about. So the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.